The alarm sounded throughout the International Space Station at 3:42 a.m. Earth Standard Time. Dr. Lisa Warren jolted awake from her light sleep, immediately grabbing for her glasses and tablet. The message flashing across her screen made her blood run cold. Unknown objects approaching solar system. Multiple signatures. Speed exceeding known capabilities. She dressed quickly and rushed to the command center where Admiral Steve Bennett was already gathering the station's top scientists and military personnel. "What are we looking at?" Lisa asked, pushing her way through the crowd. The main screen showed a cluster of red dots moving steadily toward Earth. They had appeared suddenly at the edge of Neptune's orbit, seeming to materialize from nowhere. "Whatever they are, they're not ours," Admiral Bennett said, his face grim in the blue light of the monitors. "And they're moving faster than anything we've ever built." Captain John Miller stood silently at the Admiral's side, studying the trajectory calculations. As commander of the Earth Defense Force flagship USS Defiance, he would be first in line if these visitors proved hostile. "Time to Earth?" he asked quietly. "At current speed, 4 days," responded the monitoring officer. The news reached Earth within minutes. Emergency sessions of the United Nations convened as military forces worldwide went on high alert. Centuries of national rivalries were temporarily set aside in the face of what could only be first contact with an alien civilization. Noon, the Earth Defense Force had been formally established, uniting the planet's military assets under a single command structure. Admiral Bennett was named its leader, with Captain Miller given operational command of the combined space fleet, little more than a handful of military vessels and retrofitted civilian ships. "We're looking at approximately 200 vessels," Lisa told the assembled commanders 2 days later. The unknown craft had slowed as they passed Jupiter, giving Earth scientists a better chance to study them. The largest is nearly 2 miles long. Their technology is clearly far beyond our own. The aliens made no attempt to communicate as they approached, ignoring all broadcast attempts from Earth. Then, on the morning of the 4th day, as the alien fleet entered Mars orbit, every screen, device, and communication system on Earth simultaneously activated with the same transmission. The creature that appeared had a vaguely humanoid shape, but with gray-blue skin and 4 eyes arranged vertically on its face. When it spoke, its words were somehow perfectly translated into each listener's native language. "People of Earth, I am Krastar, emissary of the galactic hegemony. Your world has been monitored for some time, and the hegemony has determined that your species has reached sufficient technological development to be of value. The Empire requires your submission. Your resources, labor, and military capability will serve the greater good of the hegemony." The creature paused, its upper eyes blinking slowly. "Resistance is inadvisable. The hegemony has incorporated thousands of worlds into its domain. None who have resisted remain. You have 30 days to dismantle your military forces and prepare your governmental structures for integration. To demonstrate our resolve, the transmission switched to a live feed showing the small military outpost on Mars. 3 alien ships approached it, glowing with strange energy. A beam of light shot out from one ship, and the outpost simply disappeared. No explosion, no debris, just gone, along with the 47 personnel stationed there. "That was a small demonstration of our capability," Krastar continued. "We await your formal surrender. 30 days. The transmission ended. Panic spread across Earth. Religious groups proclaimed the end times. Stock markets crashed. Riots broke out in major cities as people fought over supplies, preparing for what many believed would be the end of human civilization. In the White House Situation Room, President Ellen Cruz met with global leaders via secure video conference. "The math is simple," said the Chinese premier. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours. We cannot win a military confrontation." "Submission means the end of human self-determination," countered the German chancellor. "We would be slaves." Captain Miller stood at attention along the wall, listening silently. As the senior military officer with space combat experience, he had been summoned to provide tactical assessment. President Cruz noticed his rigid posture. Captain Miller, you have something to add? Madam President, with respect to the assembled leaders, we're missing something. If these aliens are as powerful as they appear, why give us 30 days? Why not simply take what they want? The room fell silent as everyone considered his words. They're either following some sort of protocol, Miller continued, or they have a reason to fear immediate conflict. Either way, it suggests there might be weaknesses we haven't identified yet. Dr. Lisa Warren burst into the room, ignoring the protests of security personnel. He's right, she said breathlessly, holding up her tablet. I've been analyzing the transmission. Their technology isn't magic. It operates on principles we can understand. She connected her tablet to the main display, showing a complex energy pattern. Their ships emit a specific radiation signature. I think it's tied to their weapons and defense systems. Can we use this? President Cruz asked. Maybe, Lisa replied. But I need more data. The meeting shifted focus. Instead of debating surrender terms, they began formulating a plan to gather intelligence on the alien fleet. The USS Defiance would lead a small reconnaissance team to observe the aliens from a distance, using stealth technology originally designed for espionage against terrestrial adversaries. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Bennett pulled Captain Miller aside. This is likely a suicide mission, John. We need time, and that means someone has to get close enough to those ships to learn something useful. Miller nodded. The Defiance was built for this kind of operation. We'll get what we need. As they prepared to depart, Dr. Warren approached Miller on the launch deck. I'm coming with you, she said firmly. You need someone who understands what to look for. Miller started to object, then saw the determination in her eyes. We launch in 3 hours. Don't be late. The next morning, as the USS Defiance and 3 smaller vessels slipped away from Earth using minimal power to avoid detection, the alien fleet established orbit around the moon. They made no further communications but began deploying smaller craft that formed a perimeter around Earth. They're setting up a blockade, Miller observed from the bridge of the Defiance as they carefully navigated past the outer planets. Making sure we can't escape, or making sure nothing can get in to help us, Lisa added quietly. Miller studied the tactical display, where dozens of red dots surrounded his home planet. Either way, we've got 29 days to find their weakness. Let's make them count. The USS Defiance drifted silently through the darkness of space, its engines running on minimal power. Captain John Miller stood on the bridge, watching the alien fleet through the ship's advanced telescopes. 3 days had passed since they left Earth. How close can we get without them detecting us? Miller asked. Chief Engineer Frank Dominguez looked up from his console. Hard to say, Captain. Their scanning technology is nothing like ours, but I'd guess no closer than the dark side of Europa. Miller nodded. Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, would give them a hiding spot while still allowing them to monitor the enemy ships breaking away from the main fleet. Take us in, Lieutenant, Miller ordered. The ship changed course using Jupiter's massive gravitational field to mask their approach. In the science lab, Dr. Lisa Warren worked tirelessly, analyzing the data streaming in from their long-range sensors. The walls were covered with charts and diagrams showing radiation patterns from the alien vessels. Found anything useful? Asked Lieutenant Susan Richards, as she entered with 2 cups of coffee. Lisa took one gratefully. Maybe. These ships produce an unusual form of radiation that seems linked to their shield systems. Every time they move or fire weapons, there's a spike in this energy pattern. Susan studied the readings. And that helps us how? I'm not sure yet, but understanding how their shields work might reveal a weakness. Lisa pulled up another screen, showing the destruction of the Mars outpost. Look here. When they fired that weapon, their own shields briefly changed frequency. It's almost as if they had to adjust to prevent feedback. On the bridge, Miller received a priority transmission from Admiral Bennett. The Admiral's face appeared on screen, looking tired but determined. Captain, how goes the recon mission? We're gathering data, sir. Dr. Warren thinks she might be onto something with their shield technology. Bennett nodded. We need results. Fast. The global situation is deteriorating. Half the world governments want to surrender immediately. The others are preparing for a fight we can't win. We need something concrete to rally around. Understood, sir. Miller's response was cut short as alarms blared through the ship. Captain, 3 alien vessels on approach vector, called out the sensor officer. They've changed course directly toward us. Miller's mind raced. Have they detected us? Unknown, sir, but they're moving fast. Miller made a split-second decision. Battle stations. Power up weapons but keep them offline. Prepare for emergency jump if needed. The crew rushed to their positions as the alien ships closed in. The Defiance hovered in the shadow of Europa, weapons ready but dormant. They're scanning the area, reported Lieutenant Richards. Sweeping patterns suggest they haven't pinpointed us yet. Miller watched the tactical display as the alien vessels moved closer. Hold position. Suddenly, one of the alien ships broke formation, heading directly toward their hiding spot. They've found us, Miller said quietly. Options, Engineer Dominguez spoke up. Captain, I've been going over Dr. Warren's findings. If she's right about their shield frequency, our nuclear torpedoes might actually affect them more than we thought. Explain. Their shields seem to filter out most energy weapons, but they might be vulnerable to the specific radiation from our nuclear arsenal. It's primitive by their standards. They might not be fully protected against it. Miller considered this. They had 4 nuclear torpedoes on board, outdated weapons kept mainly for asteroid deflection. Using one would reveal their position completely, but if they were already detected, Sir, called Lieutenant Richards, 1 alien vessel now within weapons range. The others are hanging back. Miller made his decision. Target the lead ship. Single nuclear torpedo. Let's test the doctor's theory. The weapons officer programmed the launch sequence. Torpedo armed and ready, sir. Fire. The torpedo streaked away from the Defiance, crossing the void toward the approaching alien ship. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then the torpedo struck the alien's shields. Instead of dissipating harmlessly as they feared, the nuclear explosion created a cascading reaction in the alien shield. Brilliant purple energy rippled across the surface of the ship before its shields collapsed completely. Direct hit, shouted the weapons officer. Their shields are down. Follow up with conventional missiles, Miller ordered. A volley of missiles struck the now unprotected alien vessel, tearing through its hull. The ship didn't explode dramatically. Instead, its lights flickered and died as it drifted powerless. The other 2 alien ships immediately changed course, retreating at high speed. They're running, Richard said, disbelief in her voice. Miller couldn't believe it either. Damage assessment on the target appears to be completely disabled, sir. No signs of power or life support. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Miller quickly restored order. We got lucky. They weren't expecting us to have effective weapons. That won't happen again. In the lab, Dr. Warren was ecstatic. It worked. The nuclear detonation created exactly the frequency disruption I predicted. Miller joined her, reviewing the data from the engagement. Can we replicate this on a larger scale? Maybe. Their shields operate on principles we can understand. The radiation from our nuclear weapons creates a resonance cascade in their shield matrix. She paused. But we'd need a lot more warheads to take on their main fleet. Lieutenant Richards entered the lab with urgent news. Captain, I've intercepted communications from the retreating ships. They're sending data back to their fleet about what happened. Can you translate it? Working on it, but one thing's clear, they're surprised. And based on the transmission patterns, I'd say they're also afraid. Miller's communicator beeped with an incoming message from Admiral Bennett. Captain, our long-range sensors show weapons fire near Europa. Report status immediately. Sir, you're not going to believe this. We engaged an alien vessel and disabled it completely. Dr. Warren was right. Their shields are vulnerable to our nuclear weapons. Silence on the line then. Are you certain? Yes, sir. We have confirmation and data. We can hurt them. The Admiral's voice changed, hope creeping in for the first time. Return to Earth immediately. Bring everything you've learned. And Captain, well done. As the Defiance changed course for home, Miller watched the stars through the view screen. Set course for Earth, maximum speed. We're in a race now. On the main alien vessel orbiting the moon, Vexnor, military commander of the hegemony forces, received the distressing news. Humans had somehow discovered their shield's weakness to primitive nuclear radiation, a flaw the hegemony had thought long forgotten by younger races. Vexnor's four eyes narrowed as he made his decision. Move up the timetable. Begin the invasion. Now, Earth must not have time to exploit this knowledge. The massive alien fleet began to move, breaking orbit from the moon and heading toward Earth. The real war was about to begin. The USS Defiance raced back toward Earth, pushing its engines beyond safety limits. Captain John Miller had just received the worst possible news. The alien fleet had begun moving toward Earth, abandoning their original 30-day ultimatum. "How long until we reach home?" Miller asked, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the command console. 6 hours at current speed, replied the navigation officer. The aliens will arrive in 4. Miller slammed his fist down. Not good. Enough. Divert power from life support if necessary. We need to get there before the main assault begins. In the ship's laboratory, Dr. Lisa Warren and engineer Frank Dominguez worked frantically to refine their findings on the alien shield weakness. If we can broadcast these shield frequencies to military commands worldwide, Lisa said, wiping sweat from her forehead, every nuclear-capable nation could reconfigure their missiles to target the weakness. Dominguez nodded. It's our only chance. But even then, we're talking about using most of Earth's nuclear arsenal against a single enemy. On Earth, panic spread as the alien fleet approached. Admiral Steve Bennett coordinated with military forces worldwide from the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Large screens showed the alien armada spreading out to surround the planet. What's the status of our orbital defenses? Bennett asked. Space-based missile platforms are armed and ready, responded his aide. But based on what happened on Mars, they won't make a dent. The door burst open as President Ellen Cruz entered with her security detail. Tell me we have a plan, Admiral. The Defiance is inbound with critical intelligence, Madam President. But they won't arrive before the aliens. We need to buy time. President Cruz took a deep breath. Then we fight with what we have until they get here. The first alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere 30 minutes later. They positioned themselves above major cities, New York, Beijing, London, Moscow, Tokyo, but did not immediately attack. Instead, all communication systems worldwide once again broadcasted a message from Krazatar. People of Earth, you have violated the terms of our arrangement by attacking our scout ships. The grace period is revoked. Submit immediately or be destroyed. President Cruz stood before the emergency broadcast camera, her face calm despite the circumstances. This is President Ellen Cruz of the United Earth Government. We did not ask for this conflict, but neither will we surrender our world to tyranny. Humanity rejects your terms. In response, the alien ships opened fire. Energy beams struck military bases around the world. Installations vanished in flashes of light, taking thousands of soldiers with them. Commander Alan Foster led the ground defense of Washington, D.C. as alien dropships began landing troops in the city center. The aliens wore armor that deflected conventional bullets, and they carried weapons that disintegrated targets on contact. Fall back to defensive position Bravo, Foster shouted into his radio as another building collapsed nearby. Use explosive rounds only. Aim for the joints in their armor. Across the world, similar scenes played out as humanity fought with desperate courage against an overwhelmingly superior force. The USS Defiance finally approached Earth orbit, only to find itself facing a screen of alien warships. We'll never break through their blockade, Lieutenant Richards said grimly. Miller studied the tactical display. We don't need to. Prepare to broadcast Dr. Warren's findings on all frequencies. Every military command on Earth needs this data. But sir, the moment we start broadcasting, they'll pinpoint our location. I'm counting on it. Miller turned to the weapons officer. Arm all remaining nuclear torpedoes. We're going to create a diversion they can't ignore. As the Defiance began transmitting the shield frequency data, 3 alien cruisers immediately broke from the blockade and moved to intercept. "Fire torpedoes. Spread pattern Alpha," Miller ordered. The ship shuddered as it launched its remaining nuclear weapons. Unlike the surprise attack at Europa, the aliens were ready this time, adjusting their shields to counter the nuclear radiation. But that was exactly what Miller had anticipated. "Full power to engines. Take us straight toward the flagship. Get the yaw." Defiance accelerated toward the heart of the alien formation, drawing more enemy ships away from their positions. Below, on Earth, military commanders received the shield frequency data and began reprogramming their nuclear arsenals. In the command center, Admiral Bennett watched the unfolding space battle. "The Defiance is buying us time. Are the missiles ready?" "First wave reprogrammed and ready to launch, sir." Bennett looked to President Cruz, who nodded grimly. "Launch." Nuclear missiles erupted from silos across the planet, streaking upward toward the alien fleet. The aliens, focused on the Defiance, didn't immediately recognize the threat. When they did, it was too late. The missiles detonated, not on impact but at precisely calculated distances, creating overlapping fields of radiation tuned to the exact frequency that disrupted their shields. Dozens of alien ships suddenly found themselves defenseless. Earth's conventional forces followed up immediately, firing everything they had at the exposed vessels. Alien ships began falling from the sky, crashing into oceans and unpopulated areas as ground controllers directed the impacts away from cities. On the bridge of the Defiance, Miller watched in amazement as the alien formation broke apart in confusion. "It's working. Their fleet is in disarray." The triumph was short-lived. The main alien flagship, enormous compared to the other vessels, remained unaffected. It launched a devastating counterattack, destroying 3 Earth missile platforms with single shots. "Their flagship has adaptive shielding," Dr. Warren reported, analyzing the readings. "It's already compensating for the frequency disruption." Miller's communicator crackled with Admiral Bennett's voice. "Captain, the aliens are sending reinforcements from the moon. We've hurt them, but this isn't over." "Understood, sir. Miller was cut off as the ship rocked violently. "Direct hit to our port engine," shouted Engineer Dominguez. "We're losing power." The Defiance began drifting, its engines sparking and failing. Miller helped a fallen crew member back to her station. As emergency alarms blared, "Get us back in the fight," he ordered. "Reroute power from non-essential systems." As the crew struggled to repair the ship, a strange signal came through on an emergency channel. The message was distorted but clear enough to understand. "Attention, Earth vessel. This is Kreezex of the Resistance. We offer assistance. The hegemony is not invincible. We have been waiting for someone to fight back." Miller and Dr. Warren exchanged shocked glances. They weren't alone in the fight anymore. On the alien flagship, Supreme Commander Zarvek watched the battle with growing rage. "These humans are more dangerous than we thought. Prepare the planet killer weapon. If we cannot have Earth, no one will." The small ship that approached the damaged USS Defiance looked nothing like the sleek vessels of the hegemony fleet. It was rough, patched together from mismatched parts, and moved erratically as if to avoid detection. "Hold fire," Captain Miller ordered as his weapons officer targeted the approaching craft. "Let's hear what they have to say." The viewscreen flickered to life, showing a being similar to Krastar, but with paler skin and only 3 vertical eyes instead of 4. A scar ran down one side of its face. "I am Kreezex," the alien said. "Former science officer of the hegemony, now rebel. Your resistance has created an opportunity we have waited generations for." "Why should we trust you?" Miller asked. "Because I can get you onto the flagship of Supreme Commander Zarvek. He is preparing a planet-killer weapon that will destroy your world entirely." Kreezex's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "Many worlds have fallen to the hegemony. Yours could be the first to truly fight back." Dr. Lisa Warren stepped forward. "How many of you are there? Rebels, I mean. Thousands across hundreds of conquered worlds. We have hidden, waiting for the right moment. Your nuclear weapons, technology the hegemony considers primitive, caught them unprepared. This advantage will not last long." Miller considered their options. The Defiance was badly damaged, Earth's forces were stretched thin, and now they faced a threat that could destroy the entire planet. "What do you propose?" he asked. "I have access codes to the flagship. My ship can approach without raising alarms. I can get a small team aboard." Miller nodded slowly. "Let's say we do this. What's the target?" "The Neural Network Center. The hegemony leadership is connected to a central system that coordinates their entire fleet. Disrupt it, and their command structure collapses." On Earth, Admiral Bennett and General Maria Diaz coordinated the ground defense from the mobile command center. They had been forced to evacuate the underground facility when alien forces targeted it with bunker-busting weapons. "We've lost contact with forces in Europe and most of Asia," General Diaz reported. "Our troops are fighting block by block, but the aliens have air superiority almost everywhere." Admiral Bennett studied the global tactical display. Red indicators showed alien control, blue showed human resistance. There was far too much red. "What about the nuclear counterstrike?" he asked. "It worked initially, but they're adapting their shields. Each strike becomes less effective than the last." A junior officer rushed in with a tablet. "Sir, encrypted transmission from the Defiance. Captain Miller has made contact with rebels within the alien forces." Bennett's eyebrows shot up. "Rebels? Put them through." Miller's face appeared on screen, with Krizek visible behind him. Bennett listened as Miller explained their desperate plan to infiltrate the alien flagship. "It's a suicide mission," Bennett said finally. "Yes, sir, it probably is," Miller agreed. "But if that flagship deploys its planet killer, none of us survive anyway." Bennett nodded grimly. "What do you need from us?" "A diversion, the biggest one possible. When we signal, hit them with everything we have left. We need their attention. Focused outward, not inward." "We'll be ready, Captain. Good luck." Within the hour, Miller had assembled a strike team. Himself, Dr. Warren, Lieutenant Richards, and Engineer Dominguez. The rest of the Defiance crew would return to Earth aboard escape pods, carrying vital data about alien technology. "This is a volunteer mission only," Miller told his chosen team. "I won't order anyone to come." "With respect, Captain," Richards replied. "We're already volunteers. Let's finish this." Krizek's small ship detached from the Defiance and moved carefully toward the massive alien flagship, broadcasting identification codes that marked it as a returning scout vessel. Dr. Warren and Engineer Dominguez huddled in the cramped cargo hold with the other humans reviewing the schematics Krizek had provided. "The Neural Network Center is here," Warren said, pointing to a glowing section near the center of the ship. "Heavily guarded, but Krizek says he can get us close using maintenance tunnels." "And this device will disrupt it?" Dominguez asked, holding up a small cylinder they had constructed using components from both human and alien technology. "In theory, it creates a feedback loop in their network, essentially giving their entire command structure a massive migraine." Warren managed a small smile despite the tension. "They're so dependent on the network that they never developed safeguards against this kind of attack." Miller checked his weapon, a modified rifle designed to penetrate alien armor at the joints, where their protection was weakest. "Everyone clear on the plan? We go in, plant the device, and get out, if we can." The others nodded silently. They all knew the odds of returning were slim. Krizek's ship passed through the flagship's outer security without incident. They docked in a small maintenance bay where Krizek quickly disabled the few guards present. "Their focus is outward," the rebel alien said. "Most forces are deployed against your world. We must hurry." They moved through narrow passages, avoiding the main corridors where hegemony troops moved in formation. Twice they had to hide as patrols passed, pressing themselves into recessed doorways as alien soldiers marched by. "We're close," Krizek whispered after nearly 30 minutes of tense progress. "The network center is beyond that security door." Miller peered around the corner. Two heavily armed guards stood at attention outside a massive door covered in glowing symbols. "We can't shoot. It'll trigger alarms," Richards whispered. Krizek reached into a pouch at his waist and removed a small device. "Distraction," he explained. He activated it and tossed it down a side corridor, where it began emitting a high-pitched wail like an alarm. The guards immediately responded, moving toward the sound with weapons raised. The humans and their alien ally slipped past and approached the door. "Access code should work," Krizek said, pressing his three-fingered hand against a panel. Nothing happened. He tried again with the same result. "They've changed the codes, we're locked out." "Then we do this the hard way," Dominguez said, pulling out a small explosive charge. "Stand back." The charge made a surprisingly small sound. More of a pop than an explosion. But the door's locking mechanism was destroyed. They forced it open manually and slipped inside. The neural network center was a vast chamber filled with pulsing light. In the center floated a cluster of crystalline structures connected by beams of energy. Around it, dozens of aliens sat in semicircular arrangements, their eyes closed, apparently connected to the network mentally. "There," Krizek pointed. "The main control node." Miller signaled the team to move forward, but before they could take 3 steps, a deep voice echoed through the chamber. "I have been expecting you." The humans froze as a large figure emerged from behind the crystal cluster. Standing nearly 8 feet tall with all 4 eyes glowing with internal light, Supreme Commander Zarvek regarded the intruders with what might have been amusement. The rebellious humans come to make one final futile gesture. His gaze shifted to Krizek's. "And a traitor to guide them. How predictable." Miller raised his weapon, but Zarvek moved with surprising speed. A wave of his hand sent an invisible force that knocked the humans off their feet. Only Dr. Warren, standing slightly behind the others, remained upright. "Your species is remarkable," Zarvek continued, ignoring the fallen humans and focusing on Warren. "We have encountered your kind before, you know. Humans. On other worlds. In other systems. Always so determined. Always so dangerous." Warren clutched the disruption device behind her back. "If you've met humans before, you should know we don't surrender easily." "No," Zarvek agreed. "That is why your kind must be eliminated, not merely conquered. The planet killer will fire in 10 minutes. There is nothing you can do to stop it now." Dr. Lisa Warren kept her eyes fixed on Supreme Commander Zarvek, while her fingers worked blindly on the disruption device behind her back. Captain Miller lay on the floor nearby, slowly regaining his senses after being thrown down by the alien leader's power. "Your species has such potential," Zarvek continued, his 4 eyes glowing brighter. "Yet you waste it on independence. The hegemony brings order to the chaos of the galaxy. Order through fear isn't order at all," Warren replied, keeping him talking as she activated the first sequence on the device. "It's just control." Zarvek made a sound that might have been laughter. "A distinction without difference. All advanced civilizations learn this eventually." On the floor, Miller caught Warren's eye. He gave a tiny nod, understanding her plan. Slowly, he began sliding his hand toward the fallen weapon beside him. "If humans are so dangerous, why bother conquering us?" Warren asked, her voice steady, despite her racing heart. "Why not just destroy Earth immediately? Resources, labor. Your planet is rich in both." Zarvek gestured to the neural network behind him. "And your minds. Humans have unique mental patterns that strengthen our network. Those who submit become part of something greater." Miller's fingers closed around his weapon. At the same moment, Lieutenant Richards and Engineer Dominguez began stirring on the other side of the room. Krizek remained motionless, possibly more severely injured by Zarvek's attack. Warren needed more time. The disruption device required 30 seconds to fully activate. "You said you've met humans before. Where? When?" "Other worlds. Other times." Zarvek's upper eyes narrowed. "Humans spread across the stars long ago before they destroyed themselves in wars. You are merely one branch of a once mighty tree." Warren's mind reeled at this revelation, but she stayed focused on her task. 20 more seconds. Zarvek suddenly stepped forward. "Enough talk. Your device will not work. Did you think we would not detect it?" He reached for Warren, but Miller acted first. He fired 3 rapid shots at the alien commander. The energy blasts struck Zarvek's personal shield, dissipating harmlessly. But the distraction was enough. Richards and Dominguez sprang into action, firing at the connected aliens around the neural network. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Alarms blared as the connected aliens awoke, disoriented and confused. Zarvek roared with anger, sending another wave of force that knocked Miller back. "Now, Lisa," Miller shouted. Warren threw the disruption device directly into the heart of the neural network. It passed through the outer energy field and lodged in the central crystal cluster. For a moment, nothing happened. Zarvek laughed. "A futile gesture." His words cut off as the crystal began to pulse erratically. The beams of energy connecting it to the aliens flickered and changed color. Zarvek staggered, clutching his head in apparent pain. "What have you done?" he gasped. "Created a feedback loop in your network," Warren explained, backing away. "Your own thoughts, amplified and reflected back at you thousands of times." The connected aliens began screaming, tearing at devices attached to their heads. Zarvek fell to his knees, all four eyes now dim and unfocused. "We need to get out of here," Miller said, helping Krizex to his feet. The alien rebel was wounded but conscious. "The planet killer," Krizex reminded them weakly. "Still active. Control room, 1 level up." Miller nodded grimly. "Richards, get Krizex back to the ship. Dominguez, Warren with me." They fought their way through corridors now filled with confused and disoriented alien soldiers. Without the neural network to coordinate them, the once disciplined troops were in disarray. Some still fought, but others seemed lost, uncertain, what to do without direct commands. They reached the weapon control room and found it nearly abandoned. A single alien technician tried to block their entry, but fell quickly to Miller's accurate shot. "Can you disable it?" Miller asked as Dominguez examined the alien controls. The engineer studied the panel. "I think so. The countdown is still active. 7 minutes remaining." "Do whatever it takes," Miller said, taking position at the door, with Warren to guard against any approaching enemies. Outside the flagship, Earth's remaining forces launched their final desperate assault. Admiral Bennett had committed everything they had left: missiles, fighters, even civilian craft converted, to carry explosives. On the ground, General Diaz led her troops in coordinated attacks on alien landing zones. In orbit, something unexpected happened. Several alien ships suddenly stopped firing. Others began moving erratically, as if their pilots were confused. The disruption of the neural network was spreading throughout the fleet. Inside the weapon control room, Dominguez worked feverishly on the alien systems. "I can't stop it completely," he called out, "but I think I can change the target." "To what?" Warren asked, helping Miller repel another group of approaching aliens. "The moon. Their secondary fleet is based there." Dominguez's fingers flew over the alien controls, guided by his understanding of the technology they had studied. "If I redirect it..." Miller fired the last energy pack from his weapon. "Do it. We're out of time." With a final adjustment, Dominguez stepped back. "Done. Target locked to lunar coordinates, 3 minutes until firing." "Then let's get the hell out of here," Miller said. They ran back through the ship, encountering less resistance now as the command structure continued to collapse. They reached the maintenance bay where Krizex's ship waited, Richard standing guard at the entrance. "Any problems?" Miller asked as they boarded. "None, sir. It's like they've forgotten we're here." Krizex, despite his injuries, took the pilot's seat. "The network collapse is spreading. Without it, many will remember they were once free." They detached from the flagship and accelerated away, Krizex pushing the small ship's engines to their limits. Behind them, the enormous alien vessel began to glow as the planet-killer weapon charged for firing. "We're not going to clear the blast radius," Dominguez warned, watching the energy readings climb. The view screen suddenly lit up with Admiral Bennett's face. "Captain Miller, get to these coordinates immediately." A series of numbers appeared on their navigation display. Without questioning, Krizex changed course. They approached what appeared to be empty space, but as they neared, a massive human ship decloaked before them. "The CSS Avenger," Miller breathed. "I thought it was still in prototype phase." "It was," Bennett replied, "until we needed it. Dock now. 20 seconds until the alien weapon fires." Their small craft slipped into the docking bay of Earth's newest and most advanced warship. The moment they were secure, the Avenger jumped to safe distance. From there, They watched as the alien flagship fired its planet-killer weapon. The massive beam of energy shot not toward Earth but toward the moon. When it struck, the explosion was blinding. The moon's surface cracked, and the alien base there was completely vaporized, along with the secondary fleet. The shockwave raced outward, catching the flagship itself. The massive ship shuddered under the impact of its own weapon, its systems overloading. Secondary explosions rippled along its length before it finally broke apart in a cascade of fire. Throughout the solar system, the remaining alien vessels fell into disarray. Some fled, jumping to distant systems. Others simply powered down, their crews no longer bound to the hegemony's will. On the bridge of the CSS Avenger, Admiral Bennett greeted the returning heroes. "The aliens are retreating across the globe. Whatever you did up there worked." Captain Miller nodded toward Dr. Warren. "She disrupted their neural network. Without it, they couldn't coordinate. And some of them didn't want to fight in the first place," Warren added, glancing at Krizex, who was receiving medical attention nearby. President Cruz's face appeared on the main view screen. Despite the exhaustion evident in her features, she smiled. "Captain Miller, Dr. Warren, Earth owes you a debt we can never repay." Miller shook his head. "This wasn't just our victory, Madam President. This was humanity's stand." 3 weeks later, delegations from Earth met with representatives from dozens of formerly subjugated worlds. Krizex, now recovered from his injuries, served as translator and guide. "The hegemony ruled for 10,000 years, he told the assembled delegates. "You broke their power in a single day. Many worlds wish to learn from Earth, not your technology but your spirit." Dr. Warren stood beside Captain Miller as they looked out at the stars from the observation deck of the new United Worlds headquarters. "So, humanity has been out there all along," she said quietly. "Other branches of our family tree scattered among the stars?" Miller nodded. "And now we'll find them." Behind them, the delegates applauded as President Cruz signed the first interstellar alliance in Earth's history. Not an empire built on fear, but a union founded on freedom. The empire had demanded Earth's submission. Humanity had answered with fire, and the galaxy would never be the same. The stars hung silent in the blackness of space, cold and indifferent to the drama about to unfold. The human warship Indomitable drifted along its patrol route. A massive gray fortress of metal and weaponry cutting through the void. Its hull stretched nearly 2 kilometers from bow to stern, covered in sensor arrays and gun batteries that gleamed dully under the light of distant suns. Captain Sarah Chen sat in her command chair on the bridge, reviewing reports on a holographic display. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her uniform was crisp despite the 3-month patrol they had been running. Around her, the bridge crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. The soft beeping of sensors and the hum of life support systems were the only sounds breaking the silence. "Captain, we have multiple contacts dropping out of faster-than-light travel," Lieutenant Park announced from the sensor station. His fingers danced across his console as data flooded his screens. 12 ships, configuration matches Zethrian military vessels. They're forming up into a battle group. Chen leaned forward slightly, her gray eyes narrowing. "Battle positions. Raise shields and charge weapons, but hold fire. Let's see what they want." The Zethrian ships were sleek and elegant, their hulls painted in deep purple with gold trim. They moved with practiced precision, forming a perfect circle around the Indomitable at a distance of 50,000 kilometers. Each vessel was roughly half the size of the human dreadnought, but together they presented an impressive display of military power. A communication request flashed across Chen's display. She nodded to her communications officer. "Put them through." The main view screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of the lead Zethrian vessel. Commander Vexthal stood at the center, his forearms crossed over his chest. His species was reptilian in appearance, with scaled skin that shifted between green and blue depending on the light. His eyes were large and golden, with vertical slits for pupils. He wore ornate armor that marked him as a high-ranking warrior. "Human vessel," Vexthal began, his voice carrying the clicking undertones of his native language through the translation software. "I am Commander Vexthal of the Zethrian Concordat. You trespass in space that belongs to my people." Chen kept her expression neutral. "Commander, according to the Treaty of Proxima, this sector is designated as open space. No species has exclusive rights here. Vexthal's mouth pulled back in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. Treaties are words on paper, human. Power is what matters in the galaxy. My civilization has conquered 47 star systems. We have brought low species that thought themselves mighty. And now we find you, patrolling our borders with a single ship as if you have any right to be here. We have every right, Chen replied calmly. But I sense this isn't really about territorial disputes, is it, Commander? The Zethrian warrior's eyes gleamed with something that might have been respect for her directness. You are correct, human. This is about demonstrating reality to a species that seems to have forgotten its place. The Zethrian Concordat issues a formal challenge of combat. 12 of our finest warships against your lone vessel. We will show the galaxy that humanity is weak, that your presence in space is temporary. Whispers ran through Chen's bridge crew, but she raised a hand for silence. She studied Vexthal carefully, noting the confidence in his posture, the way his subordinates stood behind him with absolute certainty of victory. You're broadcasting this, aren't you? She asked. Vexthal nodded. Of course. Observers from 6 neutral species are already in position. By tomorrow, every civilization in known space will see the recording of this battle. They will see humanity humbled. Chen was quiet for a long moment. Her first officer, Commander Marcus Rodriguez, leaned close and whispered, Captain, we can call for reinforcements. The fleet can be here in 6 days. No, Chen said softly. Then, louder, addressing Vexthal, Commander, I accept your challenge. Surprised murmurs echoed through both bridges. Vexthal's eyes widened slightly. You accept? Just like that? You do not wish to retreat, to call for help from your fleet? You issued a formal challenge under ancient combat protocols, Chen said. Honor demands we answer. However, I request 24 hours to prepare my ship and crew. Is this acceptable? Vexthal threw his head back and laughed, a strange hissing sound. Of course. Take your time, human. Pray to whatever gods your species believes in. Make peace with your fate. We will see you in 1 rotation of your homeworld. This will be glorious. The communication ended, and the view screen returned to showing the Zethrian battle group maintaining their positions around the Indomitable. Rodriguez turned to Chen with concern written across his face. Captain, with respect, 12 against 1 are terrible odds. The Zethrians aren't amateurs. They've conquered nearly 50 systems. Chen stood and walked to the forward viewport, staring out at the enemy ships surrounding them. Marcus, tell me what we know about the Zethrian military doctrine. Rodriguez pulled up data on his tablet. They're aggressive but tactical. They use overwhelming force and traditional formation strategies. Energy weapons primarily, with fighters for close support. Their shields are top of the line. And what species have they fought? Chen asked. Let's see. The Krill Collective, peaceful traders. The Margoth Cluster, mining civilization. The Veltan Unity, explorers and scientists. Captain, I see your point. They've never fought a military power. Chen nodded slowly. They've spent centuries conquering species that never wanted war in the first place. Do you know what humanity spent 10,000 years doing, Marcus? Fighting each other, he replied quietly. Exactly. World wars. Civil wars. Colonial wars. Proxy wars. Wars over resources, beliefs, borders, and pride. We've perfected the art of killing each other with every weapon imaginable. We built ships like the Indomitable not to explore, but because we know exactly how dangerous an enemy can be. She turned to face her crew, because we've been that enemy to ourselves. She walked back to her command chair and sat down. All hands, this is the captain. We have 24 hours until we engage 12 Zethrian warships in combat. They think this will be easy. They think we're weak because we're alone. They don't understand that we designed every system, every weapon, every tactic on this ship to fight enemies far more dangerous than them. Chen paused, letting her words sink in. They're thinking like conquerors. We think like survivors. Begin combat preparations. I want every system checked and double-checked. Run battle scenario drills on Zethrian formations, and someone send a message to the observers. Tell them to get comfortable. This is going to be educational. As the crew erupted into organized activity, Chen pulled up files on her private display. Human military history scrolled past, thousands of years of warfare. She stopped on one quote from an ancient Earth general. No plan survives contact with the enemy. She smiled grimly. The Zethrians had a plan. It was a good plan by their standards, proven across dozens of conquests, but they had never fought humans before. They had never fought a species that had turned warfare into a science, a philosophy. an art form born from necessity. In 24 hours, they would learn. The galaxy would learn, and that lesson would be written in fire and steel across the darkness of space. The 24 hours passed in a blur of activity aboard the Indomitable. Every deck hummed with preparation as the crew moved through combat drills with mechanical precision. In the observation vessels hanging at a safe distance, representatives from 6 different species watched both sides prepare for the coming battle. Krillix, the insectoid historian from the collective archives, adjusted his recording equipment with his delicate manipulator arms. His compound eyes could see in multiple spectrums simultaneously, and what he witnessed puzzled him. The Zethrian ships performed their traditional pre-battle rituals with great ceremony. Warriors gathered in their common areas, reciting prayers to their war gods and painting honor marks on their scales. The humans, by contrast, simply worked. They ran drills. They checked systems. They loaded ammunition and tested firing solutions. There was no ceremony, no prayer, no ritual, just cold methodical preparation. Do they not fear death? Asked Krillix's assistant, a younger member of his species. Krillix clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. I believe they do. But watch how they prepare. Every action has purpose, no wasted movement. I have studied many warrior cultures and I have never seen this level of practical efficiency. Aboard one of the Zethrian cruisers, Intelligence Officer Ralmon reviewed data his team had gathered on human military history. His screen displayed information that made his scales pale with concern. He rushed to Commander Vexthal's quarters. Commander, I must speak with you about the humans. Vexthal was polishing his ceremonial blade, preparing for the glory to come. What about them? Are they trying to flee? Call for help? No, Commander. They are running combat drills. Very intense combat drills. But that is not what concerns me. Ralmon brought up his datapad. I have been reviewing their history. Commander, humanity has been engaged in warfare for over 10,000 years. Not just occasional conflicts. Constant warfare. Against each other, Vexthal laughed. So they are violent primitives who cannot unite? This makes them more dangerous? Commander, please look at this data. In a span of just 30 years during their 20th century, they fought 2 planetary wars that killed over 100 million of their own species. They developed nuclear weapons capable of destroying their own world and came within moments of using them multiple times. Their military technology development curve is unlike anything I have seen. They went from simple aircraft to orbital weapons in 50 years. They fought themselves. Vexthal's amusement faded slightly. For their entire history, Commander, every continent, every nation, every tribe, they have fought over resources, religion, ideology, territory, and pride. They have perfected every method of warfare imaginable, and then when they finally united and went to space, they brought all that knowledge with them. Vexthal stood and walked to his viewport, staring at the human dreadnought hanging in the distance. You worry too much, Ralmon. They are one ship. We are 12. History means nothing against overwhelming force. But Ralmon noticed that the commander's hand had moved unconsciously to his weapon. On the Indomitable's bridge, First Officer Rodriguez was conducting a briefing for the command staff. A holographic display showed the Zethrian battle group from multiple angles. Their standard doctrine is called the Spiral of Glory, Rodriguez explained. All 12 ships will form a rotating sphere around us, firing in sequence to keep constant pressure on our shields while staying mobile. It's effective against most opponents because it prevents target lock and distributes damage across their entire fleet. Effective against most opponents, Captain Chen repeated. But we're not most opponents. What's the counter? Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim from Tactical answered. We don't dodge. The Indomitable wasn't built to dance. She's built to take hits and give them back harder. Our shields are rated for sustained bombardment. They're expecting us to try to run or outmaneuver them. Instead, Chen prompted, we stand our ground and focus fire. Their formations only work if we play along. The moment we start removing ships from their spiral, their entire strategy falls apart. Chen nodded. And they're used to enemies who run. Most species they've fought were peaceful before the Zethrians arrived. They've never faced someone who would charge straight at them. Rodriguez pulled up another display, this one showing the Indomitable's weapon systems. The Zethrians use energy weapons exclusively. Particle beams and plasma cannons. Very elegant, very efficient. And our weapons? Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. Mass drivers, railguns, good old-fashioned kinetic energy. We accelerate chunks of depleted uranium to a fraction of light speed and let physics do the rest. Their shields are optimized for energy weapons, not for having a telephone pole made of metal punch through them at 3,000 kilometers per second. One of the younger officers, Ensign Martinez, raised his hand hesitantly. "Captain, if I may ask, why do we build our ships this way? Most other species have more elegant designs, more advanced technology in some areas. We seem almost primitive." Chen stood and walked to a display showing a cross-section of the Indomitable. "Good question, Ensign. Let me show you something. This is our main reactor. Notice anything unusual?" "There are 5 of them," Martinez said, surprised. "Correct. 1 main reactor, 4 backups. Any one of them can power the entire ship. Now look at our engines. 6 main thrusters. We only need 3 to maneuver effectively. Our shields have triple redundancy. Our weapon systems have backup power supplies and manual firing options. Every critical system on this ship has been duplicated, triplicated, or has manual backup options." Rodriguez continued the explanation. "We build this way because of our history, Ensign. Human military doctrine is based on a simple principle, Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong at the worst possible moment. So we plan for it. But more than that," Chen added, "we design our ships to fight enemies as intelligent, creative, and vicious as we are, because for 10,000 years that's exactly what we were fighting. Other humans. Every tactic we develop, we immediately develop counters for, because we know our enemies will think of them too." She pointed to the Zethrian formation on the display. "Commander Vexithal is a brilliant strategist by his species standards. He's won 34 major battles. But every single one of those battles was against species who didn't want to fight in the first place. He's never faced an enemy that has spent its entire existence perfecting the art of war." The bridge fell silent for a moment. Then Kim spoke up. "Captain, we're detecting power spikes in the Zethrian vessels. They're running up their weapon systems early." "Getting excited, maybe?" Chen checked the countdown timer. 3 hours remaining. "All decks, this is the captain. Final weapons check in 1 hour. All crew to battle stations in 2 hours. Try to get some rest if you can. Once this starts, it's going to be intense." As the crew dispersed to their duties, Rodriguez remained behind. "Sarah," he said quietly, using her first name in the privacy of the moment. "Are you sure about this? Engaging them, I mean. 12 to 1 is long odds, no matter how confident we are." Chen looked out at the stars, at the enemy ships waiting in the darkness. "Marcus, do you remember why we joined the fleet? Why any of us became soldiers? To protect Earth, to protect humanity." "Right. And who did we think we'd be protecting them from when we signed up?" Rodriguez thought back to his academy days, to the lectures on military history and strategic theory. "We thought we'd be protecting them from other humans. That's what all the scenarios were based on. Human fleet actions against human opponents. Exactly. We trained to fight ourselves. We designed ships to fight ourselves. We developed tactics to fight ourselves, because we knew exactly how dangerous we could be." Chen turned to face him. "The Zethrians think they're warriors. They've conquered peaceful species and call it glory. They have no idea what real war looks like, what war looks like when both sides understand violence at a fundamental level." She pulled up a historical file on her private screen, showing ancient Earth conflicts, wars with millions of casualties, cities reduced to rubble, entire nations destroyed and rebuilt. "This is what we come from, Marcus. This is what we spent 10,000 years doing to each other. And now finally, we've turned that knowledge outward. The Zethrians are about to learn a very harsh lesson. That humanity is dangerous? No," Chen said softly. "That humanity is terrifying. Because we're very, very good at the one thing we practiced for our entire existence, and that thing is war." The timer continued its countdown. In 3 hours, the galaxy would learn what happens when a species that perfected warfare by practicing on itself finally turns that expertise outward. The Zethrians were brave. They were honorable. They were skilled by their own standards, but they had never fought humans before, and that was going to make all the difference. The moment arrived with mathematical precision. The countdown timer aboard the Indomitable reached 0, and Commander Vexthal's face appeared once more on the view screen. His golden eyes gleamed with confidence, and his scales had been painted with ceremonial war marks. "Human captain," he declared, "your time has ended. Surrender now and we will allow your crew to live as prisoners. Refuse and you will be destroyed. These are your final moments to choose wisdom over pride. Captain Chen sat relaxed in her command chair, her hands resting calmly on the armrests. Commander, you issued a challenge. We accepted. There will be no surrender from either side. This is combat to the finish. Those were your terms. Vexthal's expression shifted to something like respect. So be it. You will die with honor at least. May your gods welcome you, human. The communication ended. For 3 seconds, space was absolutely still. Then the Zethrian battle group exploded into motion. All 12 ships accelerated simultaneously, forming their famous spiral of glory formation. They spun around the Indomitable in a complex 3-dimensional pattern, like electrons orbiting an atom. Their weapons charged with visible energy, purple and gold light building along their hulls. All ships firing. Lieutenant Park called out from sensors. Impact in 3 seconds. The first volley hit like a tidal wave of pure energy. Particle beams and plasma bursts slammed into the Indomitable's shields, causing them to flare brilliant white. The entire ship shuddered, and several consoles sparked. Emergency lights flickered across multiple decks. In the observation vessels, Krillix narrated for the record. The Zethrian fleet has opened fire with their standard overwhelming assault. No ship I have witnessed has survived this opening barrage. The human vessel's shields are holding, but massive energy is being transferred. They cannot possibly withstand this for long. But aboard the Indomitable, Captain Chen was smiling. Damage report. Shields at 87%, Kim reported. All systems nominal. Minor power fluctuations on decks 5 and 6 already compensated. 87%? Rodriguez muttered. They hit us with everything they had and we barely noticed. Chen leaned forward. Their weapons are designed for enemies with standard defensive systems. Our shields are built to withstand sustained nuclear bombardment from other human vessels. Kim, return fire. Show them what real weapons look like. Lieutenant Commander Kim's fingers danced across her tactical console. Aye, Captain. Main batteries locked on lead vessel. Firing solution confirmed. All railguns ready. Fire. The Indomitable's response was not elegant. There were no beautiful energy beams or graceful plasma bolts. Instead, the ship's railguns spoke with brutal efficiency. Chunks of depleted uranium, each weighing several tons, were accelerated to impossible speeds by electromagnetic force. They left the barrels faster than most species could perceive, crossing the distance to the lead Zethrian cruiser in less than a second. The first slug hit the cruiser's shield, and the shield simply failed. It was designed to dissipate energy, not to stop a solid object moving at relativistic speed. The projectile continued through the shield as if it wasn't there, struck the ship's hull and kept going. It punched completely through the vessel from bow to stern, the kinetic energy vaporizing everything in its path. The Zethrian cruiser broke apart in silence, torn into 3 pieces by internal explosions. Atmosphere vented into space in glittering crystals. Escape pods launched desperately from the dying ship. On Vexthal's command bridge, alarms shrieked. Ship 7 is destroyed, his tactical officer screamed. One shot destroyed Ship 7. Vexthal stared in disbelief. Impossible. Their weapons were kinetic projectiles. Our shields should have... Their kinetic energy exceeded our shield capacity by a factor of 10, the tactical officer reported, his voice shaking. Commander, our shields were never designed to stop weapons like these. The other species we fought used energy weapons. These humans are using mass drivers as ship killers. All ships scatter formation, Vexthal ordered. Break the spiral. Random evasive patterns. But Captain Chen had been waiting for exactly this response. She had studied the Zethrian battle records. She knew what they would do when their primary strategy failed. They're breaking formation, Kim reported. Exactly as predicted. Target the ships moving to our starboard, Chen ordered. 3-round bursts, sequential targeting. Show them that running is worse than staying in formation. The Indomitable rotated ponderously, bringing its full starboard battery to bear. The railguns fired in a carefully orchestrated sequence. 3 ships tried to escape to the right, moving in rough formation because their instincts told them not to separate completely. 3 shots, 3 hits, 3 ships torn apart by weapons that treated their shields like thin paper. Krillix watched in stunned silence as his instruments recorded the carnage. This is unprecedented, he whispered into his recorder. The humans are not defending. They are hunting. 4 Zethrian vessels destroyed in under 2 minutes. Their weapon systems are primitive by galactic standards but brutally effective. The Zethrian shields cannot protect against solid projectiles moving at these velocities. Aboard another Zethrian vessel, Captain Zalaeth contacted Vexthal. "Commander, we must retreat. These are not the tactics we were promised. They did not tell us the humans would have weapons that bypass our defenses. They are just kinetic weapons." Vexthal roared, though his voice carried a note of desperation. "Ancient technology. Charge them. Close range and board if necessary." 3 Zethrian ships accelerated toward the Indomitable, following their commander's orders despite their fear. They closed to within 5,000 kilometers, hoping to get past the effective range of the railguns and use their close-range weapons. They never made it. "Point defense systems activating," Kim announced calmly. The Indomitable's hull erupted with fire. What the Zethrians had assumed were sensor arrays or communication equipment suddenly revealed their true purpose. Thousands of small railguns, each no larger than a human arm, swiveled and tracked the incoming ships. They fired in a continuous stream, creating a sphere of supersonic metal around the human dreadnought. The 3 charging Zethrian vessels ran headlong into a wall of depleted uranium, traveling at hypervelocity. Their hulls were shredded in seconds, torn apart by thousands of impacts. They tumbled away from the Indomitable as lifeless hulks, their crews dead before they could even understand what had happened. 7 ships destroyed, 5 remaining. The battle had lasted less than 5 minutes. "They are dying," Krillix narrated, his voice carrying a note of horror. "The Zethrians are dying because they challenged a species that understands war at a fundamental level. The humans built this ship to fight enemies far more dangerous than the Zethrians. They built it to fight other humans. Every weapon, every defensive system, every tactic was designed to counter opponents who think like they do." On Vexthal's bridge, silence reigned except for the alarms and the sounds of damage control teams. His tactical officer spoke quietly. "Commander, we have lost 7 ships. 7 in 5 minutes. The humans have taken minimal damage. Their shields are still at 70% capacity." Vexthal stared at the Indomitable on his view screen. The human ship hung in space like a predator, its weapons hot and ready. It had not dodged. It had not retreated. It had simply stood its ground and methodically destroyed everything that came near it. "What are we fighting?" he whispered. His intelligence officer Ralmon answered quietly from behind him. "I tried to tell you, Commander. We are fighting a species that spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of killing its own kind. Every weapon they built to fight other humans. Every tactic they developed to counter other human tactics. Their entire military philosophy is based on fighting enemies who are just as smart, just as creative, and just as vicious as they are." Vexthal's scales had gone pale. "We are not nearly as dangerous as they are. No, Commander. We are not. And I fear we are about to pay the price for our arrogance." Captain Chen watched the 5 remaining Zethrian ships on her display. They had stopped attacking. They were holding position, clearly confused and terrified. She felt no pleasure in their fear, only a grim satisfaction that the lesson was being learned. "Commander Rodriguez," she said quietly, "are the observers still recording?" "Yes, Captain. All 6 observation ships have their equipment running." "Good, let's finish this. But Marcus, make sure the records show that we gave them every chance. They chose this fight." Rodriguez nodded solemnly. "Aye, Captain." Chen opened a channel to the remaining Zethrian vessels. "Commander Vexthal, you challenged us to combat. Do you wish to continue? Or do you finally understand the mistake you have made?" But she already knew the answer. The battle was far from over. The Zethrians were warriors. They would not surrender easily even when they had already lost. And that meant more of them would die before this lesson was complete. The galaxy was watching. And it was learning to fear. Commander Vexthal stared at Captain Chen's image on his view screen. Behind him, his bridge crew waited in terrified silence. 7 of their ships were gone. 7 crews dead, and the human vessel showed only minor damage. Every tactical assumption they had made about this battle had been wrong. "Human," Vexthal began, forcing his voice to remain steady. "We acknowledge your skill in combat. You have proven your strength. In the name of honor between warriors, we yield. This battle is yours." Chen's expression did not change. "Commander, do you remember the terms of your challenge? You broadcast it to the entire galaxy. Combat to the finish. No retreat, no surrender. Those were your words. Vexthal felt his heart sink. Surely you do not mean to. You wanted to teach the galaxy a lesson about humanity's place in the universe, Chen interrupted. I accept that mission. But the lesson will be different than you planned. All ships the Zethrians are attempting to surrender. Do not accept it. They issued a challenge to the death. We will honor their own terms. Across the 5 remaining Zethrian vessels, panic spread. Captain Zalith activated her emergency broadcast. All ships in the region, this is Captain Zalith of the Zethrian Concordat. We are under attack by human forces. We request immediate assistance. They will not accept our surrender. But there would be no help coming. The nearest Zethrian fleet was 6 days away at maximum speed. And every other species in the region had learned long ago not to interfere with the Zethrians when they were demonstrating their military might. The irony was not lost on Krillix watching from his observation vessel. The Zethrians call for help, he narrated into his recorder, but no one will come. How many species did they conquer who called for help? How many pleas did they ignore? Now they understand what it means to be on the other side of overwhelming force. Vexthal made a decision. All remaining ships retreat formation. Maximum acceleration away from the human vessel. We scatter in 5 different directions. They cannot chase us all. The 5 Zethrian cruisers broke formation and fled, each heading in a different direction at their maximum speed. Their engines burned bright as they pushed their reactors to the limit, desperate to escape the killing zone. Captain Chen watched them go without concern. Lieutenant Park report. All 5 vessels are fleeing, Captain. They're spreading out, trying to make us choose which one to pursue. And what will we pursue? Rodriguez asked. Chen smiled grimly. All of them. Kim, deploy the hounds. Kim's fingers moved across her console, deploying hunter-killer missiles. All tubes loaded and ready. From multiple launch ports across the Indomitable's hull, missiles began to emerge. But these were not the fast interceptor missiles most species used for ship-to-ship combat. These missiles were slower, more patient. Each one carried its own reactor, its own sensor suite, and its own artificial intelligence. 20 missiles launched in total, 4 assigned to each fleeing Zethrian vessel. They did not race after their targets at maximum speed. Instead, they accelerated smoothly, calculating intercept courses with cold mechanical precision. Aboard Zalith's ship, the sensor officer called out, Captain, multiple missile launches from the human vessel. 20 missiles tracking us and the other ships. Evasive maneuvers, Zalith ordered. Full countermeasures. Her ship twisted and turned, launching decoy drones and electronic interference packages. The missiles tracking her appeared to fall for the tricks, veering off course toward the decoys. For a moment, she felt hope. Then the missiles corrected their course, ignoring the decoys completely. They are not falling for our countermeasures, her sensor officer reported, his voice breaking. Captain, these missiles have adaptive AI. They learn from each attempt to fool them, and they are not running at full speed. Why would they not use full speed? Zalith demanded. Because they do not need to, Captain. They calculate that they will catch us anyway. They are conserving fuel so they can pursue us for hours if necessary. These are not weapons designed for quick kills. They are designed to hunt. The realization was terrifying. The humans had not built missiles to win fast battles. They had built missiles that could chase a target across entire star systems, learning and adapting, never stopping until they caught their prey. Vexthal watched his tactical display as 4 missiles closed on his ship. He had tried every evasion tactic in the Zethrian manual. The missiles adapted to all of them. They anticipated his moves before he made them, as if they could read his mind. Commander, Ralmon said quietly, these missiles were designed to hunt other human vessels. Human pilots are highly trained, highly creative, and understand evasion tactics better than we do. The missile AI was programmed to counter enemies who are more clever than us. Impossible, Vexthal growled. I am a master tactician. I have won 34 major battles. Against species that did not want to fight, Ralmon reminded him gently. Commander, we are not fighting warriors. We are fighting something much worse. We are fighting survivors, a species that learned war by practicing on itself. One of the fleeing Zethrian ships, the Glorious Wind, made a desperate gamble. Its captain ordered a jump to faster-than-light travel, trying to escape into hyperspace. The ship's FTL drive began to charge, energy building for the transition. The jump never happened. Captain, Park called out. The Glorious Wind is attempting FTL transition, but they are failing. Their drive is not engaging. Rodriguez checked his instruments. Because we deployed jump inhibitors before the battle even started. The entire region is locked down. They cannot enter FTL until they get at least 1 million kilometers away from us. Chen nodded. And they cannot get that far before the missiles catch them. The Glorious Wind's captain realized too late what had happened. The humans had planned this entire battle from the beginning. They had thought of everything, countered every possible escape. The missiles tracking his ship closed in, and he had no more options. The 4 missiles struck simultaneously. They did not detonate immediately. Instead, they used shaped charges to punch through the hull, then detonated inside the ship. The Glorious Wind broke apart from within, its crew dead in seconds. 1 down, 4 remaining. Vextal tried one final tactic. He ordered his ship to accelerate directly toward one of the observation vessels, hoping the humans would not fire if it meant hitting a neutral party. It was dishonorable, but he was desperate. Captain Chen watched his maneuver without emotion. He is using the observers as shields. Clever. Do we recall the missiles? Kim asked. No. Signal the observation vessel to move. If they do not move in 30 seconds, authorize the missiles to fire through their position. Make it clear we will not stop this hunt for anyone. The observation vessel, seeing the incoming Zethrian ship and the missiles following it, immediately engaged its engines and moved out of the way. The insectoid crew had no desire to be caught between predator and prey. Vextal cursed as his last hope disappeared. The missiles continued their pursuit, and he had nowhere left to go. Captain Zalith tried a different approach. Her ship had taken damage during the initial engagement, but her shields were still partially functional. She ordered her ship to flip and face the pursuing missiles, bringing her weapons to bear. If she could destroy the missiles, she might still escape. Her energy weapons fired, bright beams of concentrated particles lancing out toward the incoming hunter-killers. She managed to destroy 1 missile, then a second. But the remaining 2 simply adjusted their approach, coming in from different angles. They were learning from each kill, making themselves harder to target. The 3rd missile struck her port side, and her ship shuddered. The 4th hit moments later. Zalith had just enough time to reach for the emergency broadcast button before her ship died around her. 3 down, 2 remaining. Krillix recorded it all, his compound eyes tracking every detail. The hunt continues, he narrated. The Zethrians flee, but there is nowhere to go. The human missiles are relentless.
They do not tire.
They do not give up. They simply calculate, adapt, and kill. I begin to understand something terrible about humanity. This is not how they fight enemies they respect. This is not even how they fight enemies they hate. This is simply how they fight. Efficiently, thoroughly, without mercy or hesitation. In the observation vessels, representatives from 6 species watched the systematic destruction of the Zethrian fleet. Some felt horror. Some felt satisfaction, remembering what the Zethrians had done to other peaceful species. But all of them felt the same underlying emotion, fear. If humanity could do this to the mighty Zethrian military, what could they do to anyone else who challenged them? Vextal's ship shuddered as another missile impacted. His shields were failing. His engines were damaged. He had lost crew members in the explosions. And still the missiles came, patient and unstoppable. Commander, his tactical officer said quietly, we have 1 option remaining. We can self-destruct. Deny the humans the satisfaction of our death. Vextal considered it for a moment. Then he looked at his remaining crew, at the young warriors who had followed him into battle. They deserved better than to die for his pride. No, he said. We will face our end with honor. Open a channel to the human ship. Captain Chen's face appeared on his screen. She looked calm, professional. There was no gloating in her expression, no pleasure in the kill. Just cold efficiency. Captain Chen, Vextal said, I understand now. We challenged something we did not comprehend. You are right. This is the lesson the galaxy needed to learn. But please spare my remaining crew. Allow them to evacuate. They followed my orders. Let their blood be on my hands, not yours. Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded. You have 2 minutes to evacuate your crew to escape pods before the missiles hit. Use them well, Commander. The transmission ended. Vextal turned to his crew. Abandon ship. All hands to escape pods. That is an order. As his crew fled to safety, Vextal remained on his bridge. He would face the end alone, as a commander should. Through his viewport, he watched the missiles approaching, beautiful and terrible in their precision. In his final moments, Commander Vexthal understood. Humanity was not cruel. They were not evil. They were simply very, very good at war. And they had learned that skill by fighting the most dangerous enemy they had ever faced. Themselves. The missiles struck, and the Zethrian battle group was no more. The escape pods scattered through space like seeds on the wind, carrying the survivors of the Zethrian battle group. Each pod broadcast emergency signals, hoping for rescue that would take days to arrive. The Indomitable hung motionless among the debris field, its hull scarred but intact, its crew already beginning repairs. Captain Chen stood at her viewport, looking out at the wreckage. 12 Zethrian warships had challenged them. 12 crews had been confident in their victory. Now 7 ships were destroyed completely, and 5 more were lifeless hulks drifting through the void. She felt no joy in the victory, only the hollow satisfaction of a difficult job completed. "Damage report," she said quietly. Lieutenant Commander Kim pulled up the data. Shield generators are at 43% capacity. Multiple hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, sealed and pressurized. Port engine 3 is offline, but we have 5 others operating normally. Railgun batteries 2 and 5 need maintenance, but the rest are fully operational. Casualties: 3 dead, 12 injured, all from the initial bombardment before our shields reached full strength. 3 dead. Chen closed her eyes for a moment, thinking of those crew members. They had died doing their duty, protecting their ship and their species. But their deaths hurt nonetheless. "Record their names for the memorial," she said, "and make sure their families receive full honors and benefits." "Already done, Captain," Rodriguez said gently. Chen nodded and turned to her communications officer. "Lieutenant Park, open a channel. Broadcast across all frequencies, civilian and military. I want every species in known space to receive this message." "Channel open, Captain. You are broadcasting." Chen straightened her uniform and faced the recording equipment. When she spoke, her voice was clear and steady, carrying no anger or triumph. Just simple truth. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Indomitable. Today we were challenged to combat by Commander Vexthal of the Zethrian Concordat. He issued a formal challenge under ancient combat protocols, broadcast to the galaxy as a demonstration of Zethrian military superiority. We accepted that challenge. The results speak for themselves." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Across dozens of worlds, billions of beings watch the recording. To the surviving crew of the Zethrian battle group, you fought with honor. Your bravery cannot be questioned. Your commanders led you into battle with confidence earned through many victories, but you challenged a species that you did not understand. You saw one ship and assumed weakness. You saw humanity's short time in space and assumed inexperience." Chen's expression hardened slightly. "But humanity has not been inexperienced in warfare. We have practiced war for over 10,000 years, not against others but against ourselves. Every weapon we built to fight other humans. Every tactic we developed was designed to counter other human tactics. Every defense was created to withstand human attacks. We spent millennia perfecting the art of killing each other." She gestured toward the debris field outside. "The ships we build are not elegant. They are not beautiful. They are functional, redundant, and brutal, because we designed them to survive the worst day imaginable, against the most dangerous enemy we could conceive. And that enemy was us." In the observation vessels, Krillix recorded every word. His species had survived in the galaxy by being historians, by learning from the mistakes of others. This recording would become the most important document in their archives. "This battle is being called the lesson," Chen continued. "It is a lesson for the galaxy. Humanity does not seek war. We came to space hoping to leave our violent past behind, but we cannot forget what we are or what we came from. We are survivors. We are warriors, and we are very, very good at what we spent 10,000 years learning to do." She softened her tone slightly. "To the species of the galaxy, know this. We do not wish to be your enemy. We will trade with you, learn from you, and build with you. But if you challenge us, if you threaten our people or our worlds, you will face everything we learned in 10,000 years of warfare. You will face weapons and tactics designed to fight enemies far more dangerous than anything you have encountered. Because the enemy we prepared for was ourselves." Chen looked directly into the recording equipment. "Commander Vexithal wanted to teach the galaxy about humanity's place in the universe. He succeeded. Our place is among the stars, but we carry our history with us. Remember this when you consider challenging human space." Remember what happened here. Remember that we are not cruel, but we are capable, and we will defend ourselves with every tool and tactic we spent millennia perfecting. She signaled for the recording to end. The message would be broadcast across every civilized world, translated into hundreds of languages and archived for centuries to come. Rodriguez stepped beside her. That was a strong message, Captain. It needed to be. The galaxy needs to understand us, Marcus. Not fear us unnecessarily, but understand us. We cannot hide what we are. In the days that followed, the message spread across known space. Reactions varied by species and culture. Some were horrified by humanity's brutal efficiency. Some were impressed by the tactical display. Some were angry that the humans had not shown more mercy. But all of them remembered. The Zethrian Concordate's High Council convened an emergency session on their homeworld. They watched the recording of the battle multiple times, analyzing every detail. Finally, their Grand Elder spoke. Humanity is unlike any species we have encountered. We thought ourselves warriors, but we have only ever fought those weaker than ourselves. The humans fought equals and enemies for their entire existence. They understand war at a level we cannot match. Should we prepare for their invasion? One council member asked nervously. The Grand Elder shook his head slowly. No. If they wished to invade, they would have destroyed all the escape pods. They would have pressed their advantage. Instead, they allowed survivors to escape and broadcast a warning. They do not seek conquest. They seek only to be left alone. He made a decision that would reshape Zethrian policy for generations. Issue a formal apology to Earth, offer reparations for the challenge, and revise our expansion plans. Any system within 10 light-years of human space is now permanently off-limits. We will not make the mistake of challenging them again. On other worlds, military planners revised their doctrines. Defensive alliances were formed. Trade agreements with humanity suddenly became very attractive. The Human Federation found itself with more diplomatic overtures than it could process. But the most significant change was psychological. Before the battle, humanity had been seen as newcomers, primitives who had barely left their homeworld. After the battle, they were seen as something else entirely. Dangerous, capable, not to be underestimated. 3 months later, Captain Chen sat in her quarters aboard the Indomitable, completing her final report on the engagement. The ship had been fully repaired and was back on patrol. Life had returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after what the media was calling the lesson. She looked at the photographs on her desk. Her family on Earth, her crew members. The 3 crew members who had died during the battle, their service records now marked killed in action. There was a chime at her door. Come in. Rodriguez entered, holding a data pad. Captain, you need to see this. It is a message from Krillix, the historian who observed the battle. Chen took the data pad and read. The message was simple but profound. Captain Chen, I have spent my life studying warfare across hundreds of species. I have witnessed battles, sieges, and conquests throughout the galaxy. But I have never seen anything like what I witnessed that day. Not because of the technology or the tactics, but because of what it revealed about humanity. Your species frightens me, not because you are cruel or evil, but because you are competent. You understand violence at a fundamental level that most species never achieve, and yet you use that capability with restraint. You could have destroyed the escape pods. You could have pursued the Zethrians to their homeworld. But you did not. I believe this is because your long history of warfare taught you something else. The cost of violence. You know what war truly means because you have experienced it for millennia. You are not eager for it even though you excel at it. This paradox makes you unique. You are both the most dangerous species in the known galaxy and perhaps the most valuable, because you understand both the necessity of strength and the wisdom of restraint. Thank you for allowing me to observe history. The collective archives will preserve this lesson for all time. Chen set down the data pad and looked out her viewport at the stars. Krillix was right. Humanity was dangerous, but that danger came from necessity, from 10,000 years of fighting for survival against themselves. She thought about the future, about humanity's place among the stars. They would face challenges. Some species would resent them. Some would fear them. Some would try to test them again. But they would endure, because endurance was what humanity did best. Rodriguez spoke quietly. Do you think it will be enough, Captain? The warning we sent? Chen considered the question. Some will hear it and leave us alone. Some will hear it and be angry. And some inevitably will refuse to believe it and challenge us again. But each time we will respond the same way, with competence, with strength, and with the wisdom that comes from knowing the true cost of war. She stood and walked to her desk, where a small model of the Indomitable sat. It was a reminder of what humanity had built and why. We spent 10,000 years learning how to fight each other, Marcus. Ships like this were designed to fight other human ships, crewed by people just as smart and capable as us. That is why we are so good at it. That is why others fear us. And do you regret it? Rodriguez asked. That we are so good at war? Chen picked up the model, turning it in her hands. Every day, I wish we were a species known for art or philosophy or exploration. I wish our greatest achievement was not learning how to kill efficiently. She set the model down. But I cannot change what we are. I can only use what we learned to protect what matters, to defend humanity so that maybe someday we can be known for something other than war. Rodriguez nodded slowly. The price of peace is the capacity for violence. Exactly. We paid that price over 10,000 years. Now we use what we bought to protect ourselves and perhaps to protect others. The galaxy will learn to live with us, and we will learn to live with what we are. She walked to her viewport one last time, looking out at the infinite stars. Somewhere out there, species were watching humanity, measuring them, deciding whether to approach with friendship or challenge them with force. Let them decide, Chen thought. We did not ask to be warriors. We did not choose our history. But we will not apologize for what we became or what we are capable of doing. We survived 10,000 years of fighting ourselves. We can survive anything the galaxy throws at us. The Indomitable continued its patrol. A human warship carrying the weight of 10,000 years of warfare through the silent darkness of space. It was not beautiful. It was not elegant. But it was functional, deadly, and above all it was human. And that made all the difference. The lesson had been taught. The message had been sent. The galaxy would remember the day 12 ships challenged one, fought bravely, and none returned. They would remember what happens when you challenge a species that learned warfare by practicing on itself. They would remember humanity,